Good morning and welcome to Gulfstream today. Brian Nato and Acacia Courtney with you as we overlook the track there on another beautiful day here in Hollandale Beach. A little crusty, a little cool this morning, I will say that. Temperatures have dipped a little bit. We are off the turf as you see it on your screen there, a fast main track, and of course the Tapeta as we have a 10-race card on tap today.
We do indeed, and I think if anybody's up in the Northeast, they're a little bit mad at us for calling it cooler down here in South Florida, but we'll take it for sure. The sun is shining, so looking forward to that. And we have 10 races coming up today, and as we keep saying, the beauty of having that Tapeta is very few scratches with those scheduled turf races.
Yeah, exactly. The fields typically have held together nicely. A little bookkeeping. The Rainbow Six was hit yesterday, so kudos to whoever took that down. We'll start fresh today. $50,000 gross guarantee in the pool. Ron Nicoletti will have a ticket in race 5, but we'll start it off in the opener at 12:30. It's a 12.5 maiden claimer for 3-year-olds. We go 6 furlongs on the main track. Acacia, I know you landed on Frolic, man. If you printed your PPs early, I had to take note of this. Tyler Gaffleone's riding the 3. I printed early. He wasn't on. Irad Ortiz is off his mounts. Obviously, I think this is the last day that Irad's name appears, and we'll tomorrow, no jockey changes like that. So we'll try to keep you abreast. You go Frolic, man. We'll take a look at my early pick 5 ticket real quickly. I certainly have Frolic, man, but I spread in this race. Long shot look to Pemberton, the 8, and then I'm much more condensed. 3-6 in race 2 in order. 1-5 is in order. 3-6 is in order. And then the get out leg, I adjusted a little bit, and I hope it doesn't cost me. It did yesterday. You and I have talked about this. I rarely adjust my picks in the off the turf races, and I lost an $11 winner yesterday when I did so. I did it here today as well. 4-7. I went with Triple Jeopardy on top. Back to the opener, though. I do think it's Frolic, man, to beat. 3-2 as I look over at the board now is a little low, but certainly Saffy, Lasix, there's a lot to like here.
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's intriguing, or encouraging, I should say, that he showed improved speed at Tampa last time out when dropping in class. He does take another drop in class, and I think it's just being realistic. Saffy's the type of trainer that's not afraid to drop horses down. It's not him going immediately from 50 to 12.5. They tried 25. It didn't work. They go to the 12.5 today, and it makes sense. Gets Lasix on. The blinkers were added last time. Showed some improved speed. As you mentioned, Tyler Gaffleone will be aboard, and we did see the third-place finisher from that Tampa race come back to win. He makes sense. The only thing not to like is the very short price.
Yeah, obviously, and I think his overall body of work in his 2 starts are better than these. The rest of them have to get to his level. I'm hoping Pemberton does. I thought he ran very, very well last time. I had that day as a negative to be down inside on the rail. So I think the fact that he's outside today helps. He picks up Luis Saez. It's a big jock switch. Lasix, the blinkers come off. And you needed to be close on the dirt that day. That was my other note on the card, and he wasn't. Hopefully he gets a better flow today.
And he's had some trouble getting out of the gate in the last 2, and it's almost counterintuitive because you sometimes see blinkers going on for horses that tend to break slow to add a little bit more focus, but sometimes they just kind of need to see what's around them, and maybe it's just causing a little bit too much energy or maybe even a lack of focus with the blinkers on. So blinkers off can sometimes help a horse to relax a little bit more in that kind of situation.
We both have some interest in the 2 Go G's, who I thought ran very, very well. You know, he was the only pace player last time to hang around at the end, and it's a better effort than it looked from a bad draw, too.
No, absolutely, and I'll figure it out. Made sense in that spot. Was one of the favorites that day. I thought that this was a horse that just suits at this level.
Race 2, we kick off the early pick 4 here. It's a 12.5, claimer for the newly minted 3-year-olds. We go 6 again on the main track. Both of us land on Birdman Richie. Let's take a look. We've got a trainer stat as well for Larry Ravelli, and Larry's got 2 of them in here. Let's take a look here. Sprinting, first time in the barn the past year. 14 for 25 with a $3 ROI. I mean, those are huge, huge numbers. Even more so, he's 38% on synthetics as well. There's just a lot to like. That applies to Dare Goes the Devil. We have Birdman Richie. I like the 6 as well, but Birdman Richie, I think with Tyler, is the horse to beat in here.
I think so too, and this is based off of my notes from him last time. I had written down that he was more of a compact type of sprinter physique, and I was was really concerned about the 2 turns last time out. So I love the cutback in distance. His only win was going 5.5 at Hawthorne. That's a lot different than a mile and 70 yards on the Tapeta that he tried last time. He also goes from that state bred allowance down to this level, which I think is just kind of back to basics. He broke his maiden for 20. It's not really a kind of, I think, a red flag drop in class.
Yeah, and he wheels back on a day's rest, or on a week's rest, excuse me. And, you know, the barn has a win for that. Super Legacy was a strong favorite that day. It was a merry-go-round race, too. They ran 1, 2, 3 all the way around.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know, it was a better effort than maybe it looked. You go down inside a little bit. Rayo, Colorado, which should be a decent number here. Lay 6 goes on, second off the layoff as well for Delgado.
A drop in class was the key. I kind of worry in that this horse's maiden win kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, so to speak. But I think they got a little bit aggressive with him, trying winners for the first time last time out. It was against tougher. Lucago had a bunch of backlash for Antonio Sano, and he was actually the favorite in that race, Rayo, Colorado. I believe Tyler Gaffalione on this one as well.
I think with an aggressive ride, too, from Tyler, he might be in front here, and then maybe he gets brave a little bit. There goes the Devil on the outside, the 6, or we'll call him the other Ravelli, but this is the one that the stat really points to as Larry takes over from Doug Matthews, who does a solid job. But, you know, we showed that prolific stat. Paco's going to get aboard here, and I'd like to see him on the class drop here put this one into the race a little bit earlier, because I don't think you want to drop too far out of this.
No, but I think there is enough pace back at you. Has some speed. Rayo, Colorado should be aggressive, and Birdman Richie doesn't have to be too far off of it. I kind of envision There Goes the Devil as the one who could potentially be coming late. But Paco is an aggressive rider, so we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But that was really intriguing with that stat sprinting.
Yeah, that's just a huge number, and it's fun to kind of dig, and then you see 38% on synthetic too, so there's a lot to like about There Goes the Devil. We go to race 3. This is a maiden optional claimer, so the Florida breds aren't in for the 50 tag here. We go about 1 mile and 70 on the Tapeta. King Tsunami for you. Blinkers, lay 6, second start, maiden special weight dropper. Mike Trombetta has a big stat on the synthetic as well.
Yeah, he does. He has big numbers. You can imagine with him being based in the Mid-Atlantic, full-time, having a lot of opportunity to run horses at Presque Isle, run us on a synthetic track there. This is my price play of the day. I believe he's 12-1 on the morning line, King Tsunami, and he didn't run a step in his debut. So I'm thinking that you could get a bit of a price on him. But you mentioned the equipment change. He was shut off at the start last time, and I think just really needed the focus. Again, physical notes from his debut. I thought that he looked a little wintry coming down here for his first start in South Florida after he had been based up at Fair Hill. He looked like he needed the race for fitness. I just can imagine that the screws are going to be tightened a lot more today. He's been based in South Florida for longer, having that race under his belt. And Javier Castellano takes him out, and he and Mike Trombetta have had a lot of success together.
Yeah, and this is a son of Into Mischief, a Florida bred. He was 9-1 that day in a 12-horse field. So that's some tote action in a big field. So I agree. I think we can expect better. I went down inside to Consulate. We'll show a stat on Jack Sisterson as well, who's really, to me, got a good feel for this Tapeta. And it's not a huge sample, but synthetic routes the past year, Jack is 5 for 18, 28% with a big ROI. Consulate takes the maiden special weight drop. Took blinkers off last time. Lasix goes back on today, and he didn't have it in the big run at Turfway. That was on synthetic. He's going to drop in class. He's going to save a lot of ground. He probably needs some pace help, but we've seen these Tapeta races maybe get a little more bunched, and sometimes outside stalker closers are in a good spot.
And I just kind of think, too, with the outside post last time, he was so far off of it, just never really got involved in the race. And I do think that this is a little bit of a class drop, too. And he is a Kentucky bred, so he is in for the 50. He makes sense in this spot. I thought that Merlin, Tyler Gaffalione, would be a big pace presence in here. And that last race, again, made an optional claiming, not in for the tag. He's a Florida bred. But the fact that he gets Lasix, he has a lot of early speed, and he actually ran pretty well against some good company on Tapeta 2 back.
It could be the day.
Yeah.
We could say we were here.
0 for 8 already.
With 5 seconds, seconds. But he always makes his presence felt. He runs, and they're going to know he's in there. And Acacia's right. If he catches a flyer at the start with that route foundation underneath, maybe he does get a little brave. Race 4, we've got an starter allowance here, $25,000. Phillies, 4 and up, excuse me, 6 furlongs on the main track. We both land on number 3, Granger County, for Ralph Nix, who's had a very, very good start to the championship meet, getting back on dirt. Very versatile, too, son of Fort Loudon.
Yeah, absolutely. The last time he tried dirt 2 back was in Stakes Company behind his stablemate Chivalry up at Tampa going 7, and I just think that that's like the end of the world for him. The shorter, the better for this horse, and he's one going 5.5, one sprinting on the turf. I think back to 6 on the main track is truly what he wants today with a Misael Jaramillo.
Down inside, Mr. Kelly ran really, really big last time, albeit on the Tapeta, but he's another one. I look at that dirt race at Hawthorne, 3 back, a very, very sharp effort, I would think. And there's actually, for a 5-horse field, there's not a lot of speed in here. He's going to be in front, I think, if nothing else.
We'll take a look at that race, because the reason I wanted to show it, I know it was the non-winners of 3 condition, but he was involved in a pace stool, and he was the one that stuck around after that pace stool with the 4-horse Amor Lejano that day. You can see him kind of pulling away down on the inside, does end up getting run down by Hard Count, but I thought that he hung in there pretty tough down on the inside. You can see he's really trying every step of the way. It is a little bit tougher today, but with the scratches, you have a compact field. I don't think he'll get around Granger County, but I thought that this was absolutely a race for him to build off of in his first race back here at Gulfstream.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's a mid-pack stalker that won, and my notes say Crazy Duel held well, and you saw it there. He really, really did run a big one. We'll just quickly mention Smiling Tuffles on the outside, who should be involved too with Danny Hertak, for Danny Hertak, excuse me. Versatile, tactical, and it comes in off a very, very good win last time.
Yeah, that was a big effort from him. Edgar Prado, the regular rider, now he does step up from the non-winners of 2 condition to this starter allowance, which he's eligible for. Some natural speed posted to the outside as well.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Rainbow 6 time. Ron's got himself a ticket. Stay tuned.
The divine winged horse that flew with heroes mounted for glory. Arrogant, gun runner, city of light, mucho gusto, and Nix go. Racing, the thunder and the lightning on the track, energy in the stands. Vibe, fashion, entertainment, all for one.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Brian and Acacia with you. We got through the first 4, and that means there's 6 remaining. It means it's Rainbow 6 time. Don't forget, we're off the turf here in race 5 and in race 9, so take note of that. Not too many came out, as Acacia alluded to. But Ronnie's got a Rainbow 6. It was hit yesterday, 3rd time, I believe, in 5 days, so we start anew with a gross guaranteed jackpot of $50,000.
And what do you know? He's got a 43.20 ticket. Perfect for the Friday feeling here. 3 deep to kick things off, and we'll talk about this 5th race more in a moment. You have a nice starter optional claiming for the newly turned 3-year-olds in the 6th. He's got 2 horses there. Maidens in the 7th with 2 horses in that spot as well. Race 8, Red Wind and Capturini in the 9th race. He's got some coverage in the late double. Those are some quality races too. Florida Bred Allowance that came up pretty tough in the 9th, and then we wrap things up on the Tapeta and that off-the-turf race, and Mike Maker once again with a strong hand. Danny Gargan, I think, could sit the trip, though, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. 43.20.
Yeah, I found this sequence difficult for a single, and Ronnie went 3 deep in the 9th, and I thought if there was a single, maybe it was American, of course, but Ronnie's got a nice ticket there with some coverage. Race 5, now, again, we're off the turf here in this $35,000 claimer, 4 and up, so we go to the Tapeta, and we'll take a look at a replay. You've got Cobla Mass, excuse me. Let's take a look at the replay last time coming from the back.
And this is on the turf, but I still think that it's worth showing because this horse I thought ran a really big race, closing from wide, and Bohemian Boy, who ended up finishing 2nd in this race, we saw come back to win yesterday from Mark Cassie, so I think flattered this horse. Cobla Mass still having to come from off of it. He was in the Mike Stidham barn that day, and he was claimed out of that race when when closing wide. You see him there taking over and looking like he's going to just get up, and had to duel down to the wire. First off the claim for Carlos David, always a strong move. And I'm encouraged too because his race on the Tapeta 2 back was strong at Presque Isle when he was beaten only ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's very key here because, you know, he's got some of these turf horses don't have the experience on the Tapeta. He clearly does. I went inside a little bit to Triple Jeopardy. And you know, the race last time, don't forget, it's off the turf, but it goes to the Tapeta. Ran very, very well to be third. And to me, that backed up the 2 turf races earlier in the season that were very sharp. And I just think Paco is here as well. He rode him last time. There's a lot to like about Triple Jeopardy, too.
No, I agree, and I should have bumped him up when it came off the turf here, but he's one that I thought ran a big figure last time out. Kitten Spa has actually never run on the Tapeta before, but to me it was just a bit of a class play.
Yeah.
He's been facing so much tougher in his last few starts for Jose Sanchez. Could potentially sit a nice trip in here as well. I think with the presence of Bright Devil, who was just a little bit ahead of Triple Jeopardy, this horse makes sense on turf or dirt. He's definitely, I think, the main pace presence here, and can show, as already shown, that it doesn't matter what the surface is for him.
Yeah, a lot of versatility there, and Bright Devil go off the claim for Bobby DeBona. So and with Tyler riding, you would think we're going to try to wire this field. On to the 6th, and that's late pick 5 time. We'll take a look at my ticket here, and as I mentioned, it's a tough sequence. I do have the single in race 9. American, of course, is my best bet of the day. There's no value there, so I think you need to find it elsewhere. Race 7, I used 3 of them, and it's Smokin' Bow is on top. A couple of them in the 8th with top pick Day's Humor, and then in race 10, a little bit deeper, 3 ways. I go Alley Oop Johnny on top, Mike Maker, Mike Dubb off the claim, and you know we saw Mike Maker in the winner's circle the other day, and I'm wondering, I'm kind of hoping the horses are going to start cycling back around after a slow start to the meet. So I'm very interested in seeing and picking him going forward over the next few days. We're on the Tapeta here in race 6 to kick off that late pick 5. It's a starter optional claimer, about 1 mile and 70. You go Vexed and Relaxed.
Yeah, speaking of Mike Baker and Mike Dubb, this one also owned by Mike Caruso. One last time out, I think should handle the Tapeta just fine today. Picks up Paco Lopez, has improved with each subsequent start, and I think that that's really the big thing. It was actually a generous price last time, too, and for 50 up at Aqueduct. Nobody took her that day. She comes back here. She's protected. I think that she's one moving forward in this spot. Do I trust her in here? To be honest, no, I don't. I don't trust any of them. Exactly, but I thought that it was a solid win last time out.
I think it's a great point you made, too. She's protected in here. It's not like they're risking her again, and I always think it's a confident move, if nothing else. I went inside. That's a Fancy Fox, and we've talked time and again that the Brian Lynch runners have all been firing here. I like this drop out of a good race last time. The debut win's going to have to prove it, A, on Tapeta, B, going 2 turns, but she's by Divining Rod out of Medaglia d'Oro mare. I don't see any problems with that.
No, absolutely. She was my 4th pick, as we only did 3 horses with the shortened fields in here. The one I'm really intrigued by, though, too, is the 3 Demogorgon for Brendan Walsh, who was disappointing last time in a starter allowance, but the 2 prior races up with Kevin Attard at Woodbine, both on the Tapeta, were strong. In fact, her best race is the blinkers come off today. She goes back on synthetic. Thought that she could be perhaps kind of the main player in this spot.
And the other thing worth noting, too, I think, is you look at her body of work. Her best race was at Lasix. It's back on today, so maybe she moves forward there, too. Late pick 4 time in race 7. It's a maiden. It's an optional claimer race here for the maidens. 50 in the tag for Florida breds as well. 6 furlongs on the main track. We're both down inside. You go with the number 1, Street Facts.
Yeah, this one, again, as far as notes last time out, I really didn't like the stretch out in distance. Did not think that he looked like a horse that wanted to go the mile, so I love the cut back today. He got really warm last time as well. Just seemed like he was doing too much before he tried to go the longest distance. He also ran into Emmanuel and Touch Code in a very salty maiden special weight race. So the drop in class plus the cutback in distance in particular really intrigued me.
Yeah, and Emmanuel, you know, one of the most dominant debut winners at the meet. He was so good that day for Todd Pletcher. I go next door to the 2 Smokin' Bow, who I thought has some sneaky form, comes out of Dean's List, who won again for Todd Pletcher, albeit had to work pretty hard to do so. He was on the same day as Emmanuel. The maiden special weight drop should play here too, Acacia.
And we did see AP Secret, who disappointed in his first start against Winners, come back and win pretty impressively the other day for Safi too. So again, the dropping class makes sense for this horse. The 2 Living Water is first off the claim for Rohan Crichton in here as well. And I think we have a stat on this one.
Yeah, let's take a look at this stat for Rohan Crichton, who does such a good job off the claim. And here it is even more so. Sprints off the claim the past year, 5 for 14, 36%, 10 for 14 in the money with a 280 ROI. This one ran second last time to an easy winner. Claims him from Chris Davis. The run 2 back was very, very solid. And I think if he gets back to it, he's a player in here.
He is. I think it goes to show you that if he gets out of the gate and shows that speed, then he's a player, because the 2 races that were less impressive were when he had trouble at the break.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. Late pick 3 time. In race 8, we're back on the Tapeta here, a 12-5 claimer. These are 3 L's, fillies and mares 4 and up, about a 5 furlongs, and it's very snappy, and I think you need some speed, Acacia. Daddy's Joy showed it 2 back on the Tapeta.
I think you and I had the same thought process here, just with different horses, and that was my game plan with Daddy's Joy. Paco Lopez going to be aboard, and I think he's just back at the proper level, too. Showed early speed, has already shown an affinity for the synthetic for Safi Joseph Jr., or she, I should say, and this one, I think, is just getting back to doing what she wants to do.
Yeah, and don't be too hard on her last race on turf either, because they went 1-2 all the way around.
And they went fast.
They went fast, too, and I didn't really think she ran that poorly. She did pass the horse. She wasn't that far beaten, so, I agree with you there. I went next door to Day's Humor, who's got the good run 2 back and then stubbed her toe a little bit last time on the class rise. Well, now she's got that under her belt. Hopefully she can move forward off it. She's going to have to.
Yeah, she is. And I think you could make a case for a lot of them in this race, to be honest. I thought it was perhaps the toughest race on the card. So for me, it was kind of a horse that was dropping in class. I guess you could say the same for Designed by Kitten to the outside, who was disappointing 2 back, facing so much tougher. Distant second last time, but that was for 20, in for the 12-5 today, which is where Gerald Brooks claimed her.
Last time was 8 days ago. What do you make of the quick turnaround? I always think it's a positive move, to be honest with you. It's a confident move. Any thoughts on it?
I don't know. I think it could be taken either way. It could either be a confident move, or it could be a little bit of a move of desperation. Turn her back, come back quickly, drop her in class, put a little bit of the for sale sign out. I thought that she made sense in this spot, keeping Rafael Hernandez aboard, and I think it's an aggressive move for a barn that's looking to get on the board.
Trying to get a win. Very, very good point there. Late double time in the 9th, and it's a solid one here. It's a state bred optional claimer, 4 and up fillies and mares. We go 5.5 on the main track. My best bet of the day, American, of course, you land there as well.
Yeah, this one, I think you try to see if you can get around her, and she just makes almost too much sense in here. We'll take a look at her last race. This was back on December 16th and off of a 4-month layoff or so. So I think you could make an argument, too, because this is a barn that we typically don't see strong numbers for, maybe off the layoff as much, just maybe getting a little bit of foundation underneath of her. I think for Kathleen O'Connell, who's quietly had a very strong meet as well. 4 winners from 24 starters so far. Tyler Gaffleone aboard. You can see she's just getting a little leg weary here and able to see her get run down in the latter stages. She should absolutely be able to build off of that.
It's a good replay to show, too, because you see that everybody's closing late. It completely fell apart. She was really the only one there doing the dirty work that held, and she's supposed to, if she doesn't regress off such let's be honest, it was a pretty taxing comeback. If she doesn't and she moves forward, the rest of these are in deep, deep water. You go to number 7, Rakasa, off the Aubrey Mirage claim.
I'm intrigued by this one. The barn has had a limited number of starters, 3 for 8 at the meet, though. This horse has kind of been knocking on the door recently. Ran a good second last time out when adding the blinkers for Bill Theranos. Picked up by Aubrey Mirage. The workouts have been strong since then, too. So very intrigued to see this one. She does have to step up to a tougher level of competition today, but she was very, very interesting to me.
And she's going to be a nice number in here, too. She might get forgotten a little bit. Junior Alvarado gets aboard the 1 Freak, who, maybe on paper, Acacia is probably the main danger, and she comes out of the same race. My issue with Freak, and we talked about it with American, of course, that race kind of fell
Yep.
apart. She didn't do a lot of running in that race with a perfect flow, too.
No, she didn't. It seemed like it was one that set up for her.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. Sometimes horses just don't live up to their names. And she's in, she looked like there was some promise being stakes placed early on as a 2-year-old. And we'll see if she can get back on track here now that she is steadily putting races back to back on the track and being able to stay on the track for the start of 2022.
I also think she's paying for that comeback a little bit,
Yes.
which was so strong, and maybe she's trying to get back to it. Race 10, we are off the turf as we wrap it up, the card here today. It's now on the Tapeta. These are fours and up, 35 claimers here. It held together relatively well. We go at 7 to post here. You go to number 5, Sterling Drive.
I think that this one's just going to get a really good trip. What I don't like is that he hasn't won in quite a while. I certainly get that. But this is a horse who ran well last time out at Del Mar, finishing 3rd. And he's first off the claim now for Danny Gargan. I respect Alley-Oop Johnny. I think he's the speed of the speed. But with the presence of Just in Time for Wine, whose only chance, and believe me, I've lost money a lot of times on this horse, is to go to the front end. And there could be a fair amount of speed in here. I think Sterling Drive is just going to get in the perfect trip. Was pretty far back last time. He doesn't need to be as far back. And I was also intrigued that 28% together for Miguel Vasquez and Danny Gargan.
It's a big number, and if you're not familiar with Danny, he wins at a high percentage up in New York. He's going to win races here this winter. I think clearly we probably both maybe could have moved Hail to the Chief up a little bit because he's the Tapeta horse.
Yeah.
He's the house horse here. If he runs back to that 3rd last time against Better, they're going to have a problem beating him.
Yeah, ran at this level off of a 13-month layoff, 2 back, and ran a good race. Junior Alvarado up for Safi, puts the blinkers on too. Took a big step forward as far as the Beyer speed figures last time as well against Tougher, and was only 2-1 that day.
DeRocher is another one that I think benefits from the move to the Tapeta outside a little bit. Might have to work out a trip, but he's a horse that wants to come from back anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I had some interest in Over the Channel. He's a turf horse, and he's off of a layoff, so he hasn't had the chance to run on the Tapeta yet since it's been put in. But he's got a ton of back class and takes a pretty good drop in class.
Well, there you have it. A 10-pack here on Friday. Again, we start anew with the Rainbow Six, $50,000 in the gross guaranteed pool. But it's lightning round time as well. We've got a lot to go over. Paco gets 3 yesterday.
Yeah, hot hand for Paco Lopez. It seems like every day somebody's had at least 3 wins on the card. Yesterday was Paco's day in the sun. Terrific rides and some nice prices, as you could see, too. They weren't all short price favorites.
No, absolutely not. And you know, we talk about it a lot in our analysis. I just love the initiative Paco shows in races, and he really puts everybody in, you know, tricky spots because, you know he's going to be aggressive and put horses into races early. I love that. In a jockey, Beat the Expert is up next, and I'm telling you what, if you're going to try to beat Ron tomorrow, you better have your running shoes on because Ronnie's been firing all week long. He had a 6-pack the other day.
Yeah, and he's excited. You can see it. He looks ready. He's got his 4320 ticket. He's ready to roll. He's got a nice sport coat picked out for Saturday, I'm sure, too. But clearly, there is nobody better than Ron Nicoletti. Free to play, by the way, at Gulfstreampark.com and take on Ronnie and Beat the Expert.
He does stand-up now.
I know.
He's all over the place.
He's got it all.
Man, he's back to biking. Good stuff. Stronach 5 returns today as well. Good to have that back. $1 minimum, 15% low takeout.
Yeah, Gulfstream Park in California, Golden Gate, and Santa Anita all in action. Kicks off about 4:30 Eastern time. So check out the list as far as the tracks and the races involved. Always a lot of fun when you can have a lot of action in a short amount of time and that low takeout.
We knock another day off the calendar, and with each passing day, that means the Pegasus World Cup on the 29th is 1 day closer. 15 days out, PegasusWorldCup.com for your tickets. And what we think is going to be that matchup with Life is Good and Knicks Go.
Oh, yeah, should be spectacular. I got a chance to go to Palmettos yesterday and catch up with some connections of horses running in the Pegasus World Cup turf race. Shifty She going to work tomorrow morning for the inaugural Pegasus Filly and Mare turf. So that'll be exciting as well, kind of the local horse to root for with local connections as well. 7
graded stakes, 4 of them on the turf. It's going to be a superstar card. And then tomorrow, big doings at Santa Anita, as you see it there, the Santa Anita mandatory payout in the 6 tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to that. That should be a good-sized pool. So you can play the Stronach 5 today, maybe get some money in the bank account in your first bet account, come back in for the mandatory payout in the Rainbow 6 at Santa Anita Park.
is going to do it for Gulfstream today. As we alluded to, Ronnie will be with us all day as well. We've got about 25 minutes to the opener. We'll take a little break and be back with you for it. Best of luck.
Pegasus, the divine winged horse that flew with heroes mounted for glory. Here begins our story of legendary times, the rarefied air when the stakes are high. Like the moment when you feel the vibe, the thunder and the lightning on the track, the energy in the stands, like music moving through your soul, shaking your hips, making you dance. The stars come out in the magic city. For Pegasus they stay, dressed in designers' newest finds, wishing all days could be like this. A moment in the sun, where everything is divine. Racing, vibe, fashion, entertainment. Arrogant, gun runner, city of light, mucho gusto, and Knicks go. Pharrell Williams at the finish line. Lenny Kravitz rocks the runway. Snoop Dogg making it rain. A Jennifer Lopez family affair. Vin Diesel found out that cars aren't the only thing that are fast and furious. This runway on the rail.